Hello, my lovely stitchy friends. How are you all doing? This is Mika recording my Flosstube video number 10, which is also my first Flosstube video of the year 2017. Today is Wednesday, February 22nd, and I am enjoying an unexpected day off from work. My work laptop crashed yesterday afternoon. And it's currently in the hands of the IT department, and the guys told me that they will need at least a full day to get it back running again, so I can pick it up tomorrow morning, hopefully. And in the meantime, yeah, I can't really get any work done. I can't access my email, I can't get to my files or my appointments or my to-do list, so I have a day off. And I thought that that would be an excellent opportunity to film a new video for you guys. Last time we talked was December 17, if I'm not mistaken. So we have quite some catching up to do. And I have a Flosstube itchy nose, sorry. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you're happily stitching or otherwise busy while you watch this video. To start with a little life update, the year has started off insanely busy. My company has gone through a major reorganization per January 1st, and that has affected me as well as the team that I used to work for. The past few years I have been working in a lovely team of about 16 people with a lovely manager, wonderful professional colleagues. And we got ripped apart. A few of my colleagues lost their job, and the ones who kept their work were relocated over the different locations that the company has. That meant for me that I was replaced to a new location with a new team and new management. And well, these things just take their time. So far so good, I think. I like my new colleagues, I like my new work location, which is a lot closer to home, so less travel time. But you know, you need to get used to each other. You need to get to know each other, you need to find your way, you need to find common ground when it comes to the ideas that you have for the development of your team. You need to define your targets and your goals for the year and the years to come. So work has been very, very crazy. There have been days when I came home in the evening and I was so knackered that I even considered skipping dance class. And you guys know how much I love my dance classes, right? I will never skip them voluntarily. But other than a crazy work schedule, I've been doing pretty fine, so I'm very happy with that. And of course, despite work being crazy, I have found some time to stitch. So let's give you an update on what has happened in the past 7-8 weeks. In my last video, I told you about the plans that I had for 2017, and they included a few things. I would start my first ever Passione Ricamo on January 1st. I would participate in Stitch from Stash 2017A, and I would make 8 of my 12 whips inactive, put them on the side for 2017, and the last 4 pieces that I started I would take with me into the new year as active whips. Those were the plans that I had, and obviously, you know, life and stitchy temptations sometimes get into the way of the plans that you made. But let's start off with the first one, my first Passione Ricamo stitch. This is the project that I've chosen. The beautiful Fairy Guide Evening Star. She is her latest design, and I told you in my last video already how much I loved the look of this one. She has, as I showed you last time, 12 different shades of Petite Treasure braid that are used in a blend with DMC. And as a result of that, she is so sparkly. Let me show you what I've done on her so far. And we're really going to try to make the sparkle come through on the camera. Here you go. I'll just move her around so you can hopefully see how pretty she sparkles. This is the center, the waist part of her dress, as well as a fair big chunk of her wing. And she is lovely. The skin, you can see a little bit of skin here on her left arm that I'm working 1/1. Let me try and keep her on the other side. Yeah, I guess that's a bit more comfortable for me. The fabric is a printed fabric by Pole Stitches called Moon. You cannot really see the moon. It starts somewhere here, but most of it is tucked in the Q-snap for the moment. The grime guard is by lovely Shopmade Designs from Etsy, and the needle minders are from a British Etsy called Needlekeep Emporium. I told you in my previous video how I was equally excited as well as terrified about the 12 different blends that were going to go in her, because I didn't have a very nice time with the blends that are in my Blue Red Mirabilia. But I'm very happy to report that blending Petite Treasure Braid with DMC is no problem whatsoever. It's going very well. I have encountered no problems so far, so I'm very happy with that. The chart says, or the instructions going with the chart say that you use the blends with 1 strand of DMC and 1 strand of Petite Treasure Braid. And for the lighter colors and the purple shades, that is going perfectly fine. For the black, however, and there is a lot of black going on in her dress, I find that the coverage is not really perfect. Let me show you up close, I hope. This is 28 count Jobelin. This is a 28 count Jobelin. And you can see here, oh, my camera is having a lot of trouble with this. Too funny. You can see here that the fabric shines through a little bit. So after I had done a few strands of black, I decided to try out 2 strands of DMC with 1 strand of Petite Treasure Braid, and that is the much darker bit that you see over here. And I think that looks much better. So when I get back to working on the dress, I will redo another, or not redo, but I will put in an extra strand of, I think, the Petite Treasure Braid on the black stitches that I've already done. She's lovely. I have one bit of, well, I wouldn't say warning, but there's one thing that I would like to mention about the instructions on the chart for any of you who are either stitching her already or who have plans to stitch her. And that is the instructions for the back stitch. It says here in the instructions that you backstitch the veins in the wings with 2 shades of Petite Treasure Braid, PB08, which is a bright blue, and PB11, which is a purple. I'll show you. Just because it gives me an opportunity to take out those beautiful Petite Treasure Braids. This is PB08, gorgeous blue, and this is PB11. Now, I clearly misinterpreted this. And because it is, and that's my mistake, obviously, I did something that the designer did not intend. I combined those 2 threads in my needle. When I came to the lower part of her wing, which is a lovely mix of purples, I backstitched the veins with 2 strands of Petite Treasure Braid, PB08 and PB11. Then, when I went a bit further up and I arrived at the backstitch part in the blue part of her wing, I saw that that had a different color on the chart, but I didn't find any additional instructions for the backstitch. And then I read it again and again, and I realized that what the designer meant is that you use PB11 the purple Petite Treasure braid for the purple part, and you use PB08, the blue Petite Treasure braid, for the blue part of her wings. So just a word of advice, it was clearly my mistake, but you know, it's not being described 100% clear. So if you are working on this or you have plans to work on this, be advised that there is 2 different shades of backstitch going on in the veins. No problem, but just a word of advice. And talking about advice, I need your advice. This lady has, how am I going to put this? Quite uneven breasts. Let me show you what I mean. This is the chart. And as you might be able to see, her left breast is quite differently shaped from her right. Or I should say, this is her left breast, obviously, and this is her right one. At this point, I'm going to put in a picture of Passione Ricamo's own Instagram feed, where you can see the actual area stitched up. Here you go. Now, as you can see, her left breast is quite a bit bigger. That is, in fact, of course, that is in part, I should say, of course, because of her posture. Her right arm is behind her skirt, and her left arm is in front of her body, holding the light. But despite that, I still think the difference is a bit too big. Now, being a woman, I obviously know that no 2 breasts are ever alike, right? That's not a secret, that's just how our bodies work. So that's no problem. But when it comes to a piece of art, when it comes to a design, I like a bit more symmetry. It doesn't have to be picture perfect. It doesn't have to be a woman that is too symmetrical to be true. That's not what this is about. But if I look at this, it distracts me. It bothers me. And so I would like to ask your guys' advice. How can I change the chart so that the 2 become a bit more even? They don't have to be identical, but I want there to be a bit more balance between the 2 of them, for lack of a better word. Has any of you ever altered a chart like that, for instance? I know that the Raven Queen by Mirabilia has the same problem, let's say. And I know that a few people have also changed that in her, but I don't know who they are, and I can't find it anymore. So if you have any advice for me on how to go about changing that, or let's say improve it, then that would be very welcome. That was Passione Ricamo's Fairy Guide Evening Star. I love her. I'm very glad that I started her. I'm very glad that the blending is going very well. And I definitely look forward to the moment when she comes back into my rotation. And as I'm saying this, I'm just cleaning up or putting away my Petite Treasure braids because they're so lovely. So, mission number 1 of my 2017 plans. Check. Accomplished. Then my second plan was to participate in Stitch from Stash. And that is going pretty okay so far. I love the group. I don't really post in it, if I'm honest. I prefer to do that on Instagram, but that's everybody's choice. But I definitely scroll through the feed at least once a day. And I love seeing everybody's stitching projects and everybody's finishes and everybody's, you know, trouble of, you know, sticking to your budget. Excuse me. I've set my budget to 25 euros a month. And for both January and February, I have to admit that I've ended a little bit in the red. But nothing too major. This challenge or this group is definitely making me much more aware of what I spend my stitching money on and how much money I would normally spend on stitching if there wasn't any, any restraint. So it's definitely working for me. And the reason that I ended a little bit in the red for both January and February has to do with 2 new charts that I bought. The first one is a chart that all of you have seen, and that is all over Instagram and all over Facebook and all over Flosstube. It is Stitchrovia's Mind Cell, quotes to live by. I'll insert a picture here. I remember seeing this one in my Instagram feed on a Sunday morning, somewhere half through January. I had come downstairs, Chris and I were going to make breakfast, and while I was waiting for the coffee to be ready, I was scrolling through my Instagram feed, and there it was, all over the place. Every other post was this stitch along. Now, I have never participated in a mystery cell. And as you know, I am not one to jump on the bandwagon. I'm not very sensitive in that regard. But this is a chart that immediately interested me. I very much like the charity that Stitchrovia has chosen. I like the design, and I like Stitchrovia as a designer. I like her style. I like the bright, bold colors that she usually chooses. And I had never stitched anything by her. So this was definitely something that interested me. But I was, trying my best to not buy it on a whim. I told myself over breakfast, sorry guys, I told myself over breakfast, come on, take it easy, don't buy it on a whim. You are participating in Stitch from Stash. You have just 2 weeks ago started a huge, big new project. Take it easy. Take it easy. Think about it. Sleep on it. And that's what I did. I slept on it for a grand total of 1 night. And then the next day I caved and I bought it. And I pulled out my fabric stash and my thread stash, and I started combining the colors that I love. And a few days later, I had a combination lying on my table that I was pretty happy with, and I started it. And ever since, I have only been working on that design. So I've been working on this for about 4 weeks straight now, maybe even 5. And I love it. It's such a fun stitch. I love how the colors that I have chosen combine together. So let me show you where I'm at. Here you go. That is my version of quotes to live by. As you can see, I've changed every single color that there is in the design. I'm stitching it on a 28 count Jobelin in the color gold brown. The needle minders are by Stitchy Time Creations on Etsy. The grime guard is, of course, by Shopmade Designs from Etsy. And the colors are all DMC except for the border, which is a Caron Waterlilies. It's called Bermuda Reef. And let me show you. It is so freaking pretty. I had 1 skein of this in my stash, and I know that this is a color that's going to be required in blue Moroccan lace, the chatelaine that I want to start somewhere in the second half of this year. Look at how pretty that is. Oh, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love, 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 love how this is coming along. If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen various updates of this project, and a lot of people have asked me over the past weeks, can you share your colors? And I said, sure, fine, no problem at all, but let me work on it a little bit more. Let me, get the bigger picture idea, and then I will happily share the colors that I use. So I'm going to put in a picture here where you see my whip with all the various colors that I've used. there you go. And I'm also going to list the colors in the description box below. You are very welcome to use these colors, but of course you will please credit me for it. I have no problem whatsoever with that. But, you know, let's keep it nice and civilized. So that is quotes to live by. Something that I had not planned, something that, you know, stitchy life just throws at you, something that I got incredibly enabled to do. And like I just said, I was happily stitching away at this for the past 4 weeks. And then yesterday evening, something happened in the Heaven and Earth Designs department. Kate has thrown a flash sale of 25% discount for all their charts. And I caved, basically. And the reason that I caved has to do with Moon Charmer. As I told you in my last video, I had, by the end of 2016, 12 whips going on. 3 of those were Heaven and Earth Designs. Amy Stewart's Little Blue, Hannah Lynn's Mini Celia, and my last start that I did in September, which was this beautiful lady, Moon Charmer, by Amy Stewart. By the end of 2016, I had almost finished a page on her. And if I'm completely honest, in the past few weeks, I have fallen a little bit out of love with her. She is a gorgeous lady. She is a lovely piece of art. Whenever I look at the gorgeous blue and purple and green shades that are in my bobbin box for her, I love them. But if I'm honest, if I look at this, I am not entirely sure if this is something that I would ever put up on my wall. And that is a thought that has been bugging me for a few weeks now. Because, you know, this is a biggie. This is 525 stitches wide and 765 stitches high. And I'm stitching it on 18 count Aida, which means that the fabric that I'm using is over 1 meter tall. That is a lot of fabric, that is a lot of thread, that will be insanely expensive if I ever want to get it framed and get it up on the wall. And I was thinking about this piece and feeling like, you know, I just don't know. I just really don't know. You know how that works for me. I need to be in love with the design. Like I just said about the Stitchrovia cell, I am usually not somebody who jumps on the bandwagon. I don't have FOMO, fear of missing out. I choose the projects that I want, and I usually fall for a project because of its colors. I am hugely motivated by color. And if I don't fall in love instantly, it usually is not going to happen anymore. And this is the first time that I've experienced a sort of falling out of love with a project, and I didn't like that. But I do like stitching on hates. I do like that, you know, my hate piece was going to come up in my rotation. And so it had been, you know, boiling in my thoughts for a few days. And then yesterday, I checked my email. I saw the newsletter from Heaven and Earth Designs that I had a flash sale on. I was like, oh, this is too tempting. I have spent only a couple of bucks in February, so I have enough money in my budget to buy Heaven and Earth Designs. I shouldn't, but I did. I went online. I went to my wish list, I scrolled through it, and I came to one of the first designs that I ever put on my wish list. And it is this one. Does that scream Mika or does that scream Mika? This is Night Moves by the artist Jim Warren. If you love blue like me, you should definitely look up Jim Warren on Heaven and Earth Designs, because he features the color blue heavily in his designs. And Night Moves is one of the first hate charts that ever drew my attention. It's been on my wish list for, well, almost 2 years now. And I just caved and I bought it. I have fabric for it. I checked the floss list and the first page of the design. And the first, I think, 1,500 stitches only require 6 or 7 colors, which all of them I have in my stash. They are these, oh, if you can see that, these gorgeous blues and teals. So yeah, what's a girl gonna do? So that happened, and I think if I look at my right, I see a huge piece, another huge piece of 18 count Aida lying ready for me. I have the threads that I use. So I think I can safely assume that after I'm done editing this video and it is uploading to YouTube, I'm gonna spend the rest of my unexpected day of starting Night Moves by Jim Warren. I feel a bit guilty and a bit bad, but I also feel, you know, the excitement of starting something new. And I know for sure that this is a design that I want to put up on my wall. It fits me perfectly. So I'm actually feeling quite excited at the moment. And that is my update for what has happened in the past 8 weeks since we last spoke. And now let's move on to my plans. Well, like I just said, I am pretty sure that I'm going to start Night Moves today. And I will obviously update you on how that goes. The second plan that I have for the coming weeks is that I'm going to experiment with a monthly rotation. I got inspired to do this by the lovely Stephanie, Miss Oh So Crafty, who hosts the Stitch from Stash 2017 group on Facebook. When the group first started last fall, and people were, joining, including me, Stephanie put a series of events up in the Facebook group. And one of them was called, if I'm not mistaken, Mirabilia March or something like that. And when I saw the title of that event, I thought, that is a good idea. I was immediately looking forward to spending an entire month on my beautiful blue-red Mirabilia. And I also thought it might be a very good idea for me to start experimenting with something other than a weekly rotation. And there are 3 reasons that I want to do that. First up, it's nice to try something new, right? It's always nice to, experiment and to try out new stuff. Secondly, because the rotation that I used to have in the past year and a half, which was a weekly rotation, turned into a big chaotic mess in the last quarter of 2016. My stitching was all over the place. I started new things, I made whips active, inactive. It was a mess. And thirdly, because I think that a monthly rotation will give me a much bigger sense of accomplishment by the time that I rotate to another piece. And I'm going to try to explain to you what I mean by that. As you know, I am not exactly a fast stitcher. And my lifestyle doesn't give me room to stitch every evening or every day of the week. Last year, I got on average about 9, maybe 10 hours of stitching time in the week, which was an okay amount, and I could get things done. This year so far, now that work has been so extremely busy, I get about 4, maybe 5 hours of stitching in every week, but that's about it. And so if I rotate to a next piece at the end of the week, I look at my whip and I don't feel satisfied. I don't feel like I've actually done something. Now I know that we always say to each other, it's not a race, It's not about rushing to a finish. Every stitch counts. You go X by X by X. That's the trick. And all these other sweet words of encouragement. And they're all true. But I also think that a lot of us recognize the feeling that I have, that you feel guilty when you put a whip away and you don't really see a lot of progress. Now, I know that that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? I mean, it's insane to feel guilt towards a piece of fabric and a collection of bobinated threads. It doesn't make sense. But at the same time, I know that a lot of us experience this feeling. You want to accomplish something. You want to feel satisfied with your hobby. You want to look at your work in progress by the end of a rotation and think, yes, I've done something. I don't have that feeling anymore with a weekly rotation, simply because I don't get enough hours in the week. So I'm going to try out a monthly rotation. And I'm pretty excited about that. I think for the remainder of February, I will stitch on night moves and maybe a little bit on quotes to live by. Then come March 1st, I will do a full month of stitching on my beautiful blue red Mira, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then come April 1st, I think I will stitch the whole month on Spanish Diamonds by Northern Expressions New Work, because I miss that piece and I know that you guys love it as much as I do. So those are the plans that I have, and I will of course update you in my next video on how things are going. And I guess that's everything that I have to talk about for now. We are 33 minutes in. That's pretty decent. I hope to see you again sometime soon, and I am looking forward to catching up on all your videos. Take care, my friends. Ciao, ciao.